What's up, guys? Welcome to the channel, and today I'm really excited because we're going to take this truck to a whole new level. That's right, we're going to lift her up. I got a 4 to 6 inch Cognito lift kit with 4-inch lift springs from Deaver, and I'm very excited. This is going to be number 1 out of a 3-part series, so let's get started. And as we swing by this will be the last picture of the factory ride height, which is going to be kind of nice because I won't have to be kneeling down anymore when I do pictures of the shot. I won't have to put it up on jack stands, which is what I've been doing. And let's open up this garage and we'll look at this lift kit. Alright, here it is in its entirety. So just a little disclaimer, I bought this kit maybe 3 or 4 years ago. It's been a while. It's just been sitting in my garage in a pallet, all nicely wrapped up, hasn't even moved, and been waiting on force to install it. So I believe that I have bought everything that I need to replace a lot of the components that are rusting or the bushings that are starting to get pretty bad. This truck is 14 years old and it has been living in Michigan its entire life. So a lot of those bushings are pretty bad. We're getting a lot of rust on here, and it's got over 200K on her. So we want to do it all. We want to do it upright. So today's video, we're going to be focusing on this portion right here. We're going to be putting in the rear suspension on it. So I decided to go with the Deaver leaf springs. And then here is the front. This is a non-torsion bar drop, meaning that we're going to drop the front diff and we're going to angle the torsion bars down. A torsion bar drop lift kit, they will actually take the center point in the middle of the truck where the torsion bars are mounted to, and it will drop that down a little bit. So you do sacrifice a little bit of ground clearance with those types of those types of lift kits. So we went with this one, and I have all of the components for that, which is pretty nice. This thing is going to be an absolute monster beast. These qualities are quality is very, very good on these. These parts were very heavy. I was looking at the load, or the actual skid capacity for the shipping. It was 1,200 pounds. So if you factor in the weight of the skid and all the packaging, you know that these are some pretty quality steel. So let's get that rear in there and let's make it happen. Now these springs have had a lot of research and development into them, and you can see that they're kind of like a military style. So the current spring pack on the truck right now is a 5-spring load. If you had a 1-ton, it'd be a 6-string. But these ones, these are a 10-spring load. And what that does is that you can make the springs a little bit lighter and a little bit thinner, so your ride will be a little bit better by putting more in the pack and having the same type of load capacity. We're also going to need some longer shocks. I bought some new shackles for it, and then I also bought and painted a new set of U-bolts, so we'll be able to use all those. I'm not going to put blocks on there because I do tow a heavy camper. I do scrap on the side, and I pull wood in the wintertime as a side gig, so I don't want to lose a lot of my factory towing capacity, even though we are going to be going higher, and I will lose some of that. I get that and I understand, but I want this truck to be nice and solid. So let's get this stuff on. So let's go on the journey before we go to this. To this. Now I know this is the finished project, but that's okay. The first step we got to do this in this 3-part series is getting that rear end all squared away. So let's get started on that. First you want to do, put the truck in 4-wheel drive. By putting the truck in 4-wheel drive, that'll ensure that the front 2 tires will actually be in park, and then one of the back tires, because we're going to do one side at a time, one of the back tires will also be in park, so we'll have 3 out of 4. I'm also going to wheel chuck the rest of the tires that are on the ground. Alright, climb underneath the truck and locate this bolt right here. That is for your brake lines. Now this truck is going to sit 4 inches higher, which means the diff is going to sit right here. The rest of the truck is going to go up 4 inches higher. Now, from what I am understanding, we don't need to mess with that, but I don't want to take any chances. These brake lines should give you enough travel that you don't have to extend them. If you go above 6 inches, you will have to do that. So I'm going to disconnect that, and then I'm going to pinch this out right here and push these out. This is for your emergency brake. And then that way when we lift it up, we'll set it back down and after everything's installed, and we'll see exactly where we're at. If we can put them right back in there, that's cool. If not, whatever. We'll make new brackets for it and everything like that. These are 13 millimeter for this right here. Take it out. Alright, bolt is out. That is unclipped. And I forgot to mention, unclip the brake line up here just in case it's unclipped. It's just it's actually just pressed in just because of how they made it. in that case, that way if it goes too high, it'll kind of fall into place. We won't rip anything out. Let's move on. Next, grab the loudest tool in your arsenal so we can jack the truck up and get some of the weight off of the leaf spring. Alright, now you don't have to do this, but for video purposes, I did remove the tire so we can see everything a lot easier. However, you can do this with the tire on. It might actually be easier because you could chuck this tire and that way the axle won't move on you. But either way, next thing we're going to do, we're going to remove the rear shocks. These are 21 millimeter, one on each side. There's a bolt there, and then there's your other bolt right there. Remove both those on each side. Alright, next, put a jack stand as close as you can. Oops, too far. Close as you can to here. We're going to have to end up taking these off. So just, you don't want to be right on top of it. You also don't want to be on top of this because we're going to get this all in one piece. So just center your jack stand here. And then we're going to put a jack stand underneath the frame. Alright, now if we were just going to be installing the blocks, what we would do is just loosen up our U-bolts right here, take them completely out, install this block in between here, your leaf springs, and the support mount for it on the axle, and then put in your new U-bolts. But we're not doing that. We're going to replace these, the whole springs itself, so it lifts the whole truck up and we get a lot of reliability out of it. So let's finish on. So we're just going to take these U-bolts completely off. That'll disconnect the springs from the axle. Alright, these are 24 millimeter. Just back them right out. Alright, next we're going to remove this. This is a 24 millimeter, and this side is actually the easier side. The driver's side is a little bit different because we have the fuel tank in the way. On the driver's side, what we're going to do is we're actually going to cut this part of the nipple off. Should slide right out. This one, we just have the exhaust, and that either should move or not even be in our way either way, or in general. So back this out, and that should separate from there. Alright, leave that bolt in for now. Next, we're going to be removing this bolt right here down by the exhaust. If we have to remove that one, we kind of got a lot of stuff in the way, basically the entire frame. So if you just remove this one, you can actually take the shackle and the leaf spring out all as one, put the new shackle on the new leaf spring, and then put it in here. So let's pull this one out. Alright, this one's going to be a little bit more difficult because we can't get any ratchets or anything like that in there, or power drills. So this one, just ratcheting it on there, it's actually tight enough to where this bolt's not spinning, it's just the nut, but I can only go 2 clicks at a time. This is a 21 millimeter, so let's back that nut out all the way. I think we're going to have to actually take off the hitch. I hope not, because this is an aftermarket hitch and it's got a lot of bolts and it's got a lot going on, but if it is, that's not too big of a deal. If not, we can actually cut this bolt because I have a new one. But if you don't have new ones, I would suggest to take your hitch off. Alright, so it looks like I have a ton of room. I don't think we're going to have enough though, but I'll pry this out and see how far we out from here. Like I said, I can cut this. I already have the bolts and everything that I need to replace that with, but if you don't, you will have to most likely take this off. So we'll see if we can get this off without actually cutting it. So I did measure that bolt, and we are going to be about maybe 1.5 inches to 2 inches too long before we knock this thing out, so we're going to take that out. If you've got an aftermarket one, there's probably going to be a couple bolts in there. There's going to be that one all the way at the end, the very next one, and this one right here. That one's a 21 millimeter. The next one is a 22. Alright, now that that's out of there, I tell you what guys, these car hitches, they're really nice, man. They are heavy duty, and it's stand up the test of time. It's starting to rust. I did have paint at one time, but it's still in great shape. It is a heavy mofo. Now we can get that bolt out. We'll just pound it right out. Should fall right in. All right, we slammed the box a little bit, but that's okay. It's already kind of rusty. Anyways, I want to replace this box side, and I've already repaired the rust out of it. So let's get that one out. Alright, that wasn't too bad, but I have had to loosen them out before for a couple of repairs, plus I wanted to paint this thing a while back ago, so it's all nice and loose here. Should be able to pull it right out. All right, out with the old and in with the new. As you can see, that these springs are not only longer, but they're curved more, and that's where we're getting the 4-inch lift. As you can see that right here. Here's are the new U-bolts. I did actually paint those. The old ones, we're getting tossed those. I'm probably gonna touch that up with paint here for a little bit, let it dry, and we'll throw it on there. And then, as far as like I was saying for this one, gotta get it the other way. Goes on there this way. You just basically put this on like it was beforehand, and then you slide it in the truck. And then what I'm going to do is actually get some Vaseline and put it on all of these bushings so they slide in the truck a lot easier. I'm also gonna kind of clean this off and just give it a quick paint job here real quick. Same with that one. Just gonna get some lube up here for these so they slide in nice and easy. I know they're gonna be a little difficult because they're brand new bushings, but we'll get it in. All right, that was kind of a pain. These things are extremely heavy, and I would highly recommend 2 people. So unfortunately, I did not film this because my wife needed to help me real quick. She needed to help me align this up while I kind of pounded it in. And as you can see, that hole is perfect. So we're good to go. We'll throw that bolt in there, and then we're gonna have to work on getting that pin in the axle itself. As you can see, it moved a little bit. It actually looks good from that angle, but it's moved the hole is like right over here and the pin is like over here, so we'll have to align those and then we can put this down. What I really need is actually the truck to go up or the axle to go down, so but I maxed out on both of the jacks that I own, so I'm gonna get this bolt in here and then we'll work on this axle. All right guys, serious note, we are almost there. And I can do that, I can pull that by hand, so I'll get that bolt in there for a minute. But I just want to take a step back and just show you guys what I'm doing. I want you guys, if you're gonna copy something like this, to exercise extreme caution, because this took me probably about a half hour to do, so these jacks wouldn't slip. I put them on top of cinder blocks so we could lift the truck up enough. I mean, you can see this thing is 4 miles into the air. But like I said, if you're gonna do something like this, you got to put them up there and you got to adjust them, and then you don't want something like that where it's starting leaning. So everything is super tight. I do feel comfortable with this. That jack's supporting it, that jack is halfway supporting it, and we got the 2 jack stands on the other side supporting everything. So I'm going to put that in by hand. But if you are going to do something like this, putting boards on a jack is extremely dangerous, and I just want you guys to know, if you're going to do that, I don't recommend it. So I'm gonna get that bolt in there. We should be able to set this thing on the ground. That hole, it did pop out of the hole right here, so we will have to get that in at a different time once we get this bolt in there. All right, not gonna lie, I did not feel super comfortable, maybe 75-80% comfortable, but got the bolt in. So I got it in there. All we did was just pound this out just a little bit, and then kind of using a pry bar, prying it against the frame of the box, and then pushing it down. Bolts in there. I'm going to tighten that beast down. We're going to actually tighten that one down, and then we will get this hole back in there, put the U-bolts on, and this side's done. All right, she is nice and in. We just got to put the U-bolts on. So we got it centered going this way with that strap connected to the frame, pulled it right to where the hole's in, and then it was off-centered going back and forth this way. So we put this strap on there, centered in there, fell right into place. So let's get these U-bolts on. We'll jack up the truck to get the tire on, and this side will be done. Now this one goes on top. Make sure you got your little swooshes where they hold them right on the top so they're facing up. And then same way with this one, make sure the hoosh isn't going down so when it clamps on. Now with these springs, it is pretty nice because they are the same size as the factory ones. Alright, so this band is actually hitting me, so let's see if this pin will hold it all in place. Now when you're putting these U-bolts on, you want to be careful. Here, I can show you guys. What you don't want is these U-bolts to kind of spin sideways a little bit, and they're a little bit too tight for me to do that. But you don't want like this side to go over here and then this side to go over here when you're tightening them. So what I like to do is I'll just tighten them up so they're kind of snug with the automatic stuff, and then I'll hand tighten them until these don't move at all, and then I'll really reef them down. Alright, so there we go. We're nice and straight. You can kind of see that. They're nice and good. These are hand tight, kind of snug right there. You can see that they're all the same. So I'm going to tighten them down with just my 1/2-inch ratchet itself. And then make sure you do them in a star pattern. So you do like back one, this one over here, and then you do the next back one, and then you'll come over here. Do it in a star pattern so it's nice and even. And then once they're pretty tight, we'll hit it with a yaga daga. Side one complete. We just got to put the tire on. We pulled the jacks out, which is really sweet, so it's supporting it on its own weight. Doesn't look like either one of these shifted, so they look pretty nice and straight. That doesn't seem like that's break. Can't really see it. It's kind of getting a little late here tonight. And then that one looks pretty good. I did have to beat on it a little bit, but I'll hit that with some paint. So cool. I'm gonna get this tire up. I'll give you a good shot of that, and then because of how late it's getting, I think I'm actually going to put the other side on. And if I run into any any issues whatsoever or anything that's actually different, I will obviously film that. Or we might do this. I got a buddy coming over tomorrow to help me with the front part of this lift, which will be in the second video. He might have to help me put that leaf spring on, but I can get it all out. But I am not going to film the other side just because it's basically the same thing as this. So let's get that tire and see what it looks like. Holy cow, that is much taller. But I do realize I did forget to do one thing: tape measure. So we'll just measure this side, and then the other side's not lifted at all. And as you can see how much of a difference it is here, let me walk up to this here real quick. That thing, let's see, I get down the right side. That thing is sitting a lot higher. An extra 4 inches seems a bit of a stretch. That seems like that's probably about 6 inches. So we'll measure that real quick. Like I said, I forgot to get my measurements. I'll measure this side and I'll measure this. I know it's leaning just a little bit, so that should theoretically be a little bit lower. We will do that on the front before we get those on there. That way the truck will be sitting even on that part. But let's get those measurements real quick. All right, so the stock size appears to be roughly 43 inches. Like I said, this actually looks like it's a little bit higher. I'm thinking probably because the other side's lifted it up a little bit too much. Wish I would have gotten the measurements before I put that on. Let's look what this side looks like. And then this side is sitting, well, 46, so it looks like it lifted it up about 3 inches. Like I said, it might be a little bit off just because of there. Now this does seem pretty tall. I like it. It does seem like it's working pretty good. Like I said, it's 3 inches higher there. When we get a little bit bigger tires, obviously go out there. And I'm not very tall. I'm only 5'9". So I mean, we're getting eye level here. So I'm not gonna have to go squint down here when we do these videos. I do hope that it's gonna pull that bad boy pretty good. I think it should. But either way, we're gonna put some track bars on this a little bit later. But let's get the rest of this lift on. Like I said, I'm gonna do the other side off camera just because it's getting a little bit dark out here. And I want to get this done so we're ready for my buddy to film tomorrow for the front half, because that's what I'm mostly excited about. This was just kind of hard labor type stuff, but the front is a lot more technical and I want to get that all squared away. So I'm going to get that side done real quick off camera, and then I'll show you if I got any different difficulties from this side compared to the other side. So I'm just going to cut it right here on this line, and that should be enough to pop it right out with just moving this tank around. So I'll get that out. Like I said, that's the only difference between the driver's side and the passenger side. Everything else is the same. So I'm going to get this out and we're going to take it for a ride. All right, just like that, we should be able to wiggle her right out. Boom. And lastly, put your shocks back on. 21mm bolt upstairs or downstairs. Another 21mm bolt upstairs. And then that goes the same for up there, top and bottom. Now this thing right here, what I'm planning on doing is just put a couple washers, go in the hardware store and replacing this bolt with a little bit longer one, because we do seem to be fairly tight. Realistically, this truck is always going to come down, so there's going to be less tension on there. But I want to move this up just a hair so we're not bending anything up here. And then we got a little bit of clearance up there, and that's all nice and tight. And then as far as the sensors right there, I'll show you on the outside of the truck. I am just going to zip tie these things right here just for right now. I should be able to find a plug, but this is kind of a large hole, so a zip tie in there should keep these all nice and tight. We have a little bit of play right here, which is kind of nice. So all right, now we have to extend the bump stop. So grab these two things and then grab the 9081 key set here. We're going to take the old bump stops off, and then we're going to mount them to this, and this will get mounted to the truck. I'll show you. All right, so we're going to remove those. Those are just bolts right up there, as you can see them. Or I'm sorry, not bolts, they're nuts. The bolts are actually embedded in this thing. So these are a 15mm. Let's back those out. All right, now that this is out, this little like centering nipple, that actually goes on the outside of your truck. So we're on the passenger side, so it'll sit here just like that, with the nose up here and the tail down here. So what you're going to do is you're going to actually take one of these, put the washer right in there, and then I'm just going to tighten them up right now just so they don't go anywhere. And you're going to want to do this first, otherwise you won't get these bolts in very well. And I'll show you here in a second. So once you get those in there, throw this on. And we'll just start these here real quick. We're going to actually tighten these ones up, the factory ones. Get that one on here real quick. So the reason why you want to put these ones on first, as you can see, that they're actually pretty tight in there, and then when you finally wrench this one down, it's going to lift it up. So just put these on first, then these ones, and then these bolts will go right through the frame of your truck, and you tighten them down. These are a 9/16, And then once again, these are 15 millimeter. I'll install the whole thing as is. I'll tighten this down. I'll install it the whole thing as is and show you what it is, or what it looks like. All right, so just look just like that. And as you can see, that's a very, very tight fit. If you if you did not have that bolt in there, so just put it in first. It's gonna go in the truck just like this. So we got the nose of the truck, we'll put that in the back. So let's get it in there. And just like that, we are all done. All right guys, the reeler is all done. It looks really odd. As you can see, it's leaning forward a lot. We gained about 3 inches. I'll show you the other side here real quick. We gained about 3 inches on the other side, and the only difference was there is that we had to cut that centering nipple here for the other one. We will definitely need new tires. So, and just like that, it's nice and easy to get brand new tires. Just kidding. Got it all finished. But want to make sure before I leave, you guys check that link in the description. I'll leave a list of all of the parts and the tools that I use, just like always. And don't forget to leave a like if you like this type of content, and definitely subscribe, as I got a lot of stuff going down the channel. Don't forget to check out my Instagram and my Facebook. I'll leave a link in the description for those as well. They're both at Xtrodinary Duramax on both of the platforms. And as always guys, I hope you have a great night, great day, whatever it is when you see this video. Deuces.